Good evening, everyone. This is the Rooftop Sports, or shall I say, maybe a not so good evening because most of us just saw the news that Cal Raleigh will not be getting the MVP, unfortunately. Instead, it goes to Aaron Judge, and a lot of the comments I'm seeing are like East Coast biased. Cal Raleigh was more valuable. We got robbed. Of course, they're going to give it to a Yankee. If Cal Raleigh was a Yankee, he would have gotten it, which I don't really 100% believe. I think even if Cal Raleigh was on the Yankees and Aaron Judge was like somewhere else, I still think the results probably would have been the same, but let's just get right to it. And before we do, hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification, donate to this channel if you can, as we are on a live show. And not only is this show just for us to talk about Mariners, it is also for all of you, for those who felt that Cal Raleigh should have been the MVP. And Jay Trident, how did you feel about the MVP results going to Aaron Judge?
Yeah, not too shocked. I think we talked about it a little bit beforehand. I kind of thought Judge was going to end up winning it. Like all the betting markets were starting to go heavy on Judge. That's usually a pretty telltale sign. So I'm not too mad at it. I think Aaron Judge had a fantastic season. No doubt an MVP season. It was one for Cal that, you put him in any other year in any other league and he probably wins it pretty easily. It certainly does not take away from anything that Cal did this year. It was a historic, amazing season. Every accolade he's gotten, he absolutely deserves. If he would have gotten the MVP, that would have been deserved as well. But I'm certainly not going to, stand to anybody and say that Aaron Judge didn't have an MVP season either. So, yeah, I think both deserved it. Judge comes out on top, and kind of with you, I don't think there's as much beef to be made about it that's going to be made. Cal is still the dude. Like, it doesn't change. Nothing he did this year goes away.
Yeah, and even just looking at the numbers, and I looked at all of the numbers of all the batting averages. Like for Cal Raleigh to have won an MVP off of a 247 batting average would have just been absolutely unprecedented. The lowest batting average that I've ever seen win an MVP was Shohei Ohtani in 2021, who hit 257, but he more than made up for it with basically everything else: 46 home runs, a 372 on base percentage, and the fact that he was pitching. So there was definitely a lot of factors that would play. I think a lot of people are trying to say, well, Cal Raleigh was the catcher and he should have been more valuable because all Aaron Judge do was the outfield. But I mean, that there is truth to that. But I mean, and there was a statistic that was very interesting that I think may not get enough attention about it. And this guy read in quote, and I saw it on Facebook, and I would say shout out, but I think I lost the comment. It goes, he was not robbed, Cal Raleigh. Judge is very much deserving and best Cal in every by one value metric. He did best Cal in every one value metric. B WAR is not a great measurement for catchers, but F WAR greatly rewards catchers for their work behind the plate. Aaron Judge was a designated hitter for 56 games, which made sense because it was mainly due to injury, and took a massive penalty in the F WAR because of it. Yet he still was a full win above Cal Raleigh, 10.1 to 9.1. So despite all the injuries, and you can always say that, well, yeah, Cal Raleigh did all the catching, he did the communicating. But when you look at the F WAR, for anyone that cares about F WAR, I mean, Aaron Judge he still did outdo Cal Raleigh. And if it's safe to say that the way I see it too, Yankees were pretty much hanging on. They were mostly hanging on a life support offensively. Well, maybe that's too much to say, but much of their offense is built around Aaron Judge. Like other players that were like, you had Trent Grisham, who was a 235 player. Cody Bellinger, I mean, he's not really so much as one of the best players anymore as much as he used to. Jazz Chisholm is a 242 batter. So these are also like, it seems like just looking at these numbers, they're pretty much around similar with the Mariners kind of players. But when you look at the Mariners, like Cal Raleigh had I would like to say, decent amount of support on the offense than he normally does for years. Randy Arozarena, when he gets it right. Julio Rodriguez, especially the second half, he was absolutely amazing. What about the resurgence of Jorge Polanco, who played also very well? Eugenio Suarez, who came in at the very last. So, I mean, it seems that I think that it seemed that Aaron Judge had quite a bit to carry than Cal Raleigh did. And that's in my
Yeah,
opinion.
you look at the F words there, and I think the takeaway here is both had amazing seasons. I think unfortunately this turns into and I've seen it on both sides. It turns into a debate on why the other guy didn't deserve it. I think both deserved MVPs. Like they were both amazing, but unfortunately, it could have been co-MVP. It actually wasn't that far off. 2 more votes go to Cal, and you do have co-MVP. So there was a couple people on the edge that voted for Judge. That could have been co-MVP. 10.1 F4, Fangraphs award is ridiculous. That's an insane season. Cal's 9.1 is absolutely insane. That is a ridiculous season. And I bet if you went back to every year that they've kept track of that number, Cal would be the MVP probably 90% of the time. He just happened to run into a season where Aaron Judge, was a little bit better, with slugging and on base percentage. And so those numbers, and listen, Cal's obviously hit 60 is historic. I do think if Cal hit 63, probably gets the award. I do think if he broke the record, probably would have been enough to get him over the top, because it would have been, that kind of extra added oomph to the resume. But don't forget, Judge hit 53 as well. Like it's not like he had 33, so he was close in home runs as well. It was 2 amazing seasons. And I think that really should be the takeaway for most people, is you had 2 players at the top of their game competing against not really competing against each other, but, going toe to toe for the MVP. Judge won. Cal's season still tremendous. Julio finishes 6th in the MVP voting, which is pretty cool. So just a tremendous baseball season that, we got to witness from both players. But I think Judge absolutely deserved it.
Oh yeah, there is no question. And I for some reason, like, I'm just one of those fans that doesn't really put that much investment. Like when Dan Wilson was nominated as manager of the year, I was like, okay, cool. Oh, he didn't win. Oh, well, I didn't think he was going to get it anyway. And for someone that has been watching Major League Baseball, like with statistics and everything, and more than just watching baseball since 2000, there's just that one award that I care more than any other awards. And I know that's selfish to say, but there's just that one award that the Mariners desperately need more than all of these little awards combined. And I think you can take a guess which award that is, that I think should have much more priority than all these individual awards. Now, don't get me wrong, Cal Raleigh, he was definitely in the deserving. Like he was pretty freaking close to get to Aaron Judge. I think but what do you think is that award that we care about the most?
I think it's hanging that banner. It says World Series champions. And I'm with you at the end of the day. I'm assuming that's it. Am I correct?
Yeah, it is. You are correct.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because that's at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. And I think that's the same thing with the players. I'm sure Cal would trade an MVP for a World Series. And I'm with you. Like, I just don't, I put stock into the awards because kind of how you said it, like, it matters for the players. So that's cool. And I would wanted to see Cal win it. Don't get me wrong. But it's, at the end of the day, I want the team to win a World Series. And if that's with 4 MVPs or 0, I don't care. You know what I mean? I don't care how they get there or what they do to get there. That's the banner that I want to see hung more than anything, for sure.
Yeah, and it's not, but us fans are also used to the fact that, man, that we have seen Mariners get robbed in MVPs before. Like, for example, Alex Rodriguez, he was robbed twice of an MVP award back in 1996, where he lost to Juan Gonzalez. And this was what Alex Rodriguez had: 36 home runs, 54 doubles, batting .358, winning the batting title on his first full season, a .414 on base percentage. And then here was Juan Gonzalez's numbers back in 1996 when he won the MVP. And I think a little bit had to do with the fact that the Rangers made the playoffs. But here was the WAR. Oh yeah, let's look at Alex Rodriguez's WAR. A-Rod was a 9.4 WAR player, and Juan Gonzalez in 1996, he was a 3.8 WAR player. Sure, 47 home runs should do it. 144 RBIs, batted 314, 368. I think that is probably the biggest MVP robbery I've ever seen. I think
2004 was up there.
2004
Ichiro.
with Ichiro. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's look at, before we get to Ichiro, look at 2000. Alex Rodriguez, who had lost to Jason Giambi. He batted 316 with a 420 on base percentage, a 10.4 WAR, 41 home runs, 132 RBIs. Like, these are practically numbers that you don't even see from a typical Seattle Mariner anymore. And somehow he won third in MVP, finished behind Frank Thomas and Jason Giambi. And here were the numbers. Jason Giambi had a 476 on base percentage, 137 walks, 43 home runs, 137 RBIs, which is basically similar numbers to A-Rod. And his WAR was a 7.8. Frank Thomas was a 6.0. And somehow a guy with a 10.4 WAR came in third in MVP. So I think if anyone in Mariners history was to be robbed more than anything, it's Alex Rodriguez who's been robbed the most. And then let's go to Ichiro. Ichiro in 2004, who statistically had an excellent case to be MVP. 9.2 WAR, 372, 414 OBP. Let's not forget the 262 hits, and somehow he was only 7th in the MVP behind Johan Santana, Miguel Tejada, David Ortiz, Manny Ramirez, Gary Sheffield, and Vladimir Guerrero. Vladimir Guerrero 2004, but I think it's safe to say what really killed Ichiro's MVP chance. It was just the fact that the 2004 Mariners was just really, really, really bad. Like, bad.
Well, that's the thing too with this year, right? Like, if the Yankees were, it just, nothing went Cal's way in terms of, like, I don't want to say nothing went his way, but like, had the Yankees won 72 games, even with a higher WAR, Cal probably wins. But just the Yankees were in contention. They were in contention for the division. So there was just no little extra thing that Cal could kind of get to push himself over the top. And voting's gotten smarter, right? You know, if this was, you put 1996 in today, and I guarantee you A-Rod wins that MVP, you know, or 2000 or 9. Did you say 99? Sorry, I think it was 99.
90. It was 2000.
That one. Yeah. The one with Gonzalez and Giambi, you put that into today, and it probably goes to A-Rod. You put this season, you know, back into 97, 98, and Cal probably wins. People probably do go catcher, you know, the wear and tear on that, plus the 60 home runs. But now we have the metrics like F4, and they're not perfect by any means either, but they put a lot of stock into catching, and they give you a boost for catching. So there's so much stuff nowadays with all that. So, you know, but yeah, I think if you put those A-Rod seasons today, A-Rod's probably wins those 2 MVPs. Ichiro probably finishes better than 7th for sure, because he was way ahead in WAR that year. So I don't know if he wins because, like, I don't know if he finishes 7th, but or excuse me, I don't know if he wins, but he definitely finishes better than 7th.
I would say about maybe 5th or 3rd. I would have said like 5th at worst case, and I would say 3rd at best case scenario, because he did have more than an unbelievable season. It's just too bad it was wasted. And let's go over all these numbers. We've got Aaron Judge in WAR, 9.7. Cal Raleigh, 7.4. Home runs, well, I mean, Cal Raleigh, I mean, he did clearly lead the home runs. Now, granted, you also have to put into account that Aaron Judge was injured, and I know some fans are thinking like, well, Cal Raleigh was able to hit 60 home runs off of T-Mobile Park. And I'm like, yeah, but home runs you can't just, I mean, I think even if he had 100 home runs, I still don't know if that would have gotten the MVP. Now, maybe those home runs,
well, his WAR would have been much higher with 100.
Could have been, but maybe he could have, some of those doubles or maybe those singles, that could have been more like strikeouts. So it would have been one of those give and takes. And the other thing, too, is we have seen Mark McGwire. He hit 70 home runs, more than Sammy Sosa's 66, but yet Sammy Sosa got the MVP. So it does prove that home runs don't guarantee everything because there's just too much of other things. And then Cal Raleigh had a 247 batting average, which if any of you, including me, who and Northwest Sports Fanatics, credit to him too, we watched up to 150 Mariners games. He did 150 or plus. I did a record 79 for myself. I mean, there were weeks where it's like Cal Raleigh is the best hitter in baseball, and there's another week where it's like, where is Cal Raleigh? Like he just disappeared. So there was, I think, some volatility played a little bit of role why they gave it to Judge, because Judge is clearly the more consistent hitter. And then in runs scored, I don't know if that should be a count to anything. Cal Raleigh scored 110 times, 137 for Aaron Judge. RBIs, at least Cal Raleigh won that one. Stolen base, he had 14 versus Aaron Judge's 12. But on base percentage, 359 and 457. That's kind of a significant little bit of a difference when you go from 359 to 457. Slugging percentage, 688 to 589. OPS, 1.144 for Judge, 9.948 for Cal Raleigh. OPS plus 169. Aaron Judge, 215. So, I mean, sure, Cal Raleigh, he definitely had a case to win MVP. I mean, he was damn close. Like, the fact that he was able to close it in that close with those kind of numbers compared to Judge, I would still say that's pretty darn impressive. But the fact is that, I mean, we even looked at the F4 and everything else, that I don't think it should be something that Mariner fans should lose sleep over. I think the ones that Mariner fans should have lost sleep over was when Alex Rodriguez got robbed of the MVP literally twice. One of them by Juan Gonzalez, and the other one by Jason Giambi, and let alone Frank Thomas. And if you look at those numbers, and let's say if it was 2025 and A-Rod didn't win today, I think Seattle would be protesting in the streets of Seattle going, give it to A-Rod. He should have gotten it. So, I mean, it is what it is. But the way I see it, I think the team, and they're not, I don't know if they're going to take my advice, but I think they should rally around Cal Raleigh. Maybe not just him, but then use that little thing as motivation and be like, hey, they disrespected our should have been MVP. Let's double down for a World Series championship and win something that means more, because we've seen it. Like, I remember the Super Bowl. Earl Thomas was robbed of Defensive Player of the Year award. I think he was robbed of that kind of award. They gave it to someone else, and that was day before the Super Bowl. And I was like, hey, let's just use that for the Super Bowl. And look what they did. So whatever the Mariners did not win in individual awards, use it all till next year and use that as motivation. Double the workouts. Mariners management, double what you can do to get any of the talent back and more talent for the season. So I think, I mean, like, I don't really have much, personally, I don't really have much of an opinion. Like, I totally get it. And that is even looking at all the numbers, including F4. And now to think of it, when I looked at the Facebook comments, I think it was at least 50-50. Half the Mariner fans were like, robbery, East Coast bias, because he's not a Yankee. And the other half was like, well, if you just look at even just offensive numbers, I mean, Aaron Judge really outdid it, but then, but what if he's a catcher? And that's what the F4 is for. So I'm not mad about it. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. It's just exactly what I expected. So I don't think any Mariner fans should lose sleep over it. It's not going to take away the fact that Cal Raleigh had arguably one of the best seasons as an individual player in Mariners history, and by far by catcher. I mean, I think because of a season like this, I remember an old video that me and Couch GM did when we did the all-time Mariners in every position. I said Dan Wilson. I think both of you said Dumper, but now I'm going to have to say, well, yeah, it's Cal Raleigh at this point. I mean, he kind of did that already last year, but then this year it's like, yep, sorry, Dan Wilson, you're no longer the best catcher in baseball history, in Mariners history. So I'm sure Dan Wilson doesn't care, but I mean, it is. But I've had to say that for about over 20 years, that Dan Wilson was the best catcher in Mariners history. And now Cal Raleigh, it's safe to say that he is the best catcher in Mariners history.
Yeah, I think if he retired tomorrow, he's probably past Dan already. So yeah, but I'm with you to close. I'm still losing. If I'm losing sleep over anything, it's still Game 7 of the ALCS. That still bothers me a lot more than the MVP stuff. To be perfectly honest, I would much rather, like, had Cal won the MVP, I would trade that for winning Game 7 against Toronto. But yeah, like you said, I mean, Cal doesn't take away. Cal had an amazing historic season. He deserves all the accolades he's gotten. And had he won it tonight, he would have deserved that. I truthfully would have defended the decision either way, Judge or Cal. I think both are very deserving of an MVP.
Yeah, I mean, again, like for Mariner fans, I'm just gonna say, don't lose sleep over it. We have plenty as Mariner fans. I think we have plenty of things to lose sleep over, including this off season. Where I'm not saying I've lost sleep, but I've certainly am like, well, what are the Mariners gonna do? Like, and there are times when they're talking about Josh Naylor, I'm just troll tagging the Mariners, like, hey, Mariners, are you gonna jump on this? So, well, that's all I've got to say about Cal Raleigh. Then now let's get to the fans, because it looks like we had quite a bit of commenting on this whole Cal Raleigh thing. We got Sarah saying it was close in voting by 4 votes, but look at Judge's number 2. I mean, we did, and we were like, yeah, I can see why. In no world should a guy hit 250 win an MVP, which it has happened. Shohei Ohtani did it, but of course you have to factor in the fact that not only was he a full-time hitter, he was also a full-time pitcher, which doesn't really happen anymore. And even the great Babe Ruth, he never had numbers like that. And at this point, what Ohtani is doing is much more unprecedented than what Babe Ruth is doing. And Babe Ruth, he was back in the old days, he was going up against baseball players where some of them were bagging groceries or having a second job during that time. And now today's Major League Baseballs, everyone's velocities are like at around going up to 95. So what Shohei Ohtani is doing now is, I would like to say, it's much more impressive than Babe Ruth. Judge said that he enjoys playing against Cal Raleigh. I mean, who wouldn't? Tony says, what is F4? Which is a great question. F4 stands for Fangraphs Wins Above Replacement, a baseball statistic that measures a player's total value to their team compared to a replacement level player. It is calculated by Fangraphs using a specific formula that includes a player's offensive, defensive, and base running contributions. Offense is calculated using metrics like weight on base average and includes positional and league adjustments. Defense, measured by Fangraphs, ultimate zone rating, which estimates a player's defensive value. Assessed using weighted stolen base runs and ultimate base running. Replacement level compares a player's performance to a theoretical replacement level player, such as a readily available AAA player, to determine how many extra wins they do provide. So F4 looks like it's one of the ways to measure the MVP. And like that guy said, like, even with the fact that Aaron Judge was dealing with injury, he still was able to outdo Cal Raleigh with the F4. We got flick of the switch. He never fails to disappoint. And hello. Let's see. Sarah says, I'm glad that Ohtani got the MVP in the National League. I mean, it was a pretty obvious choice. I mean, he's practically MVP every single year. Flick of the switch says, I'm pretty upset that Jay tried and snubbed on me on his guest appearance a few weeks back. Didn't even acknowledge me.
I don't see the comments, so I don't know if I can't see them, so I don't know if they're coming in. So that's on Rooftop. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. I didn't see them. Sorry, Flick. I got love for you still.
Yeah, he is Mr. Sarcastic. No, I did not hear about it. I'm not sure if we were talking about that. I think we were talking about the fact that I should have been MVP of the whole softball thing, and I should have an endorsement by now. When Aaron Judge broke the record in home run record in the AL, they gave him the nod over Shohei. Breaking the catcher home run record should have been done the same. So that's an interesting point there. But the point is, well, I mean, it doesn't matter because Cal Raleigh did not get to 61, which we are all hoping for, or let alone 64. I mean, that's a good question, though. Like, if Cal Raleigh got 64, do you think he gets that MVP, or do you think they still give it? You think he does? Like, just getting 63?
I think because it's something that, like, to break that record and so much stock's put in the home runs. Plus, that would have boosted up, WAR and stuff like that a little bit. I don't know how much 3 home runs adds. I do think it's very, because he was close. It was 17-13 for the first place. I do think if he gets and breaks Aaron Judge's record, it's because it's not just catchers at that point. It's and a lot of people would feel, based on the steroid era, that is your home run record. There's people that would fight for that and say that. So I do think that may have gotten it over the top.
I will still be indifferent if that would have been enough for it, just judging like all the other numbers too. But who knows? Flick of the switch. Did you hear that? I'm not aware of it. I'm just not. I'm not sure if we're still. I don't even know what we're talking about. If we had a real leadoff hitter, he'd had 150 RBI plus. Okay.
For Cal,
what's good, players? This Thursday night football game shouldn't be this close. Well, we're talking about baseball.
Thursday night games are always a mess.
Cal gonna hit 260 and have 63 home runs next year. MVP sweep. Well, I don't know about that, but you never know, right? And it's really just flick the switch saying bunch of stuff. And I think that's pretty much it on the comments of Cal Raleigh. So there is that. And doesn't seem like there was really that much of a venting anyway. I thought everyone was going to come in at a storm of blazes, but I guess everyone just Googled the numbers and they probably went, oh, okay, I get it.
I think too, with the way that I think if the Mariners like not made the playoffs, you'd see more people kind of up in arms a little bit. But I think I think people are a little bit on baseball fatigue. That's part of it for me. Like I honestly just, and this is me personally, I didn't care all that much about it. I've forgotten until this morning. I saw a tweet about it, like, oh, the MVP's announced tonight. I think we're all in a little bit of baseball fatigue. I think we're all a little drained from it, and the way it ended, that we're all kind of like, yeah, all right, so, whatever, a little bit, to be honest. So I don't know. I could be wrong on that. That's me personally. I'm baseball drained.
Still. And meanwhile, we're like, are the Mariners going to sign Josh Naylor? Are the Mariners going to bring back Suarez? Are the Mariners going to do this? Are the Mariners going to do that? So,
hey, pitchers and catchers report in 2.5 months.
Yeah, that's the scary. I didn't even think about that. 2.5 months that they get to report, and who knows? But yeah, I agree with you too. Like, I am 100% drained from that baseball season. Like, I hadn't worn this shirt since it was from the laundry, and I haven't worn this hat in quite a while. And by the way, an unfortunate thing happened. I think you guys saw this in Game 6. It damaged my helmet, and I'm never going to get a helmet like this ever again. So that's the emotions of a playoff game. That's what it does to people, which, I mean, do I regret it? Of course, but was it in some way emotionally healthy? Sure, because I let everything out. So I guess it wasn't so bad. But we are now going to move on to the next part of the show, which is the terrifying Mariners offseason. And recently, it seemed that Adam Jude of Seattle Times, he said something on the Marine Layer podcast saying that, in quote, and credit to Marine Layer podcast, he said, "I'd be stunned if the opening day payroll wasn't at least $165 million. Now, let me see what the payroll was for 2025, which it did start out pretty low. Their payroll was around, well, okay, I'm looking at it right now. The payroll table. Let's go to the internet for that, because we got to check these things, because I don't want to sound stupid or anything like that. And the internet's just really slow, and it betrayed me. And it's super slow. Okay, what we got here? Their payroll was 165. In 2024, they were 149. 2023, 127, and yet 2024 was considered an increase. But then when you consider, I guess, some players' salaries just happened to go up. 2022 was 113. And then 2026, they're saying it's a projected 138, but Adam Jude says he's projected that it's going to stay around 165. But the thing is, I don't really agree with Adam Jude, because given the history of the Mariners, after every single playoff run, 95, 97, 2000, 2001, 2022, it seems that the Mariners, after every single one of those playoff runs, they don't really do that much to improve the team. Like in 95, they gave away Tino Martinez and Jeff Nelson. 97 was when Randy Johnson basically held the team hostage. After 2000, A-Rod left. 2001, they just remained complacent. And then 2022, after that, they didn't really. The only thing they did was get Teoscar Hernandez. So I don't know what the Mariners are thinking. Like, there's not really much speculation going on. And frankly, there's not really much to talk about. Like, even when I check the YouTubers of the other Mariners guys, you can tell that they're coming up with ideas out of their butts too, because it's like there's nothing going on right now. But I am worried, like because there's a lot at stake. Eugenio Suarez, free agent. Josh Naylor, free agent. Jorge Polanco, free agent. And the only free agent that we were not disappointed in opting out of a contract or having the contract opt out was Mitch Garver. So I'm not really sure what Adam Jew is thinking, but usually when it's like a mainstream kind of media thing, saying that something like that, you can't really buy too much into it when someone says that. Like, I'm not going to buy anything to it. I'm kind of like, well, actions speak louder than words, don't they? Especially when John Stanton came up with that huge paragraph, took a page out of the Seattle Times, and he was like, oh yeah, we're going to do everything we can to get to the World Series. And I'm like, actions speak louder than words. Wag more. No, wait, yeah, wag more, bark less. You gotta like walk the talk.
Yep. Yeah. And, listen, obviously the hope is that being one win away from the World Series, maybe this is the year where they go, listen, we'll put a little bit more into it because we see how close the team was and how close they can be. So maybe they do up the budget thinking that, and that might be what happens. And that would be reasonable. And you'd go, okay, that makes sense. But I'm with you until they do it, until I see them put more into the budget. I'm going to kind of expect it to be, where it's been, right? With the few exceptions and a little bit of inflation for certain things and everything. So, I expect a similar offseason. I do expect them to be more active than last offseason. They were pretty active the offseason before when they signed Garver, traded for Polanco, Haniger, Luke Raley, Gregory Santos. I expect to see kind of an offseason similar to that. Not saying those type of players necessarily, but I think you'll see them do everything they can to re-sign a Josh Naylor, and then kind of make some trades around it and see what can happen. Until I see like that they're going to, what happens, I can't. They've fooled me enough times to think they're just going to be spending a ton of money. I just don't see it happening.
Maybe I did notice that. Maybe I didn't see it as much as I thought I did, but I didn't really talk to a lot of people that would openly willing say, oh yeah, there's always next year. I don't think we really saw that as much, because I think many people understand by now that after every playoff run, something always happens in a negative way. And I think maybe a lot more people finally do understand. Like for me, myself, my stress level based on following this playoff run with all my live play-by-plays, it wasn't based on the playoffs. It was based on what could possibly happen after the season. Like if the Mariners were operated like the Dodgers or the Yankees and they lost, I'd be like, okie dokie, let's just regroup in the next year, retain all the players, get new players, fine, whatever. But we're supporting a team that doesn't exactly known to up the payroll. Now, sure, we saw it where their payroll kept going up and up, but that's when players like Julio were getting their extensions. Cal Raleigh got their extension. The arbitration players' salaries just happen to naturally go up. So I wouldn't want anyone to say, oh yeah, but payroll is gradually increasing. It's increasing only because of the internal players that the Mariners do have. And of course those numbers are going to go up, but they're not exactly, but 165 is still pretty underwhelming when you compare it to other payrolls like the Yankees, the Phillies, the Dodgers. Now, am I asking the Mariners to go to that kind of level? Of course not. They don't have to do that. It's about trying to get any of those decent players to help supplement the core players the Mariners already have. Like, I think we can all agree that the Mariners don't have to necessarily go for a 10-year kind of free agent Scott Boras client. It's about just doing a little bit more. Like, maybe at most they're gonna get like re-sign Josh Naylor, re-sign Suarez, but maybe get Edwin Diaz, and he doesn't necessarily have to be the closer, or maybe Munoz and Diaz can split up. But this is literally just an idea. But if you bring in someone like an Edwin Diaz, then that will certainly take some of the pressure off of Andres Munoz, because he did go through a lot in 2025. And so, like, there's a lot to see, there's a lot to dread, but I don't know what to really think of other than just wait till everything else. But there has been speculations of like what the Mariners, what they should do is getting the likes of a Tarek Skubal. That's been somewhere on the radar, and there's been rumors that Mariners are exploring into that. And then the other hot shot that the Mariners are maybe linked to, or maybe as like a suggested, is the Japanese baseball player who plays third base. And I got to look him up because I want to make sure. His name is Munetaka Murakami. He's actually one of the best players in the Japanese league. Like, his best season that he had was a 56 home run season in 2022. And he's almost going to be approaching 26 years old. That's someone that the Mariners can maybe go for third base in case they can't get Suarez back anymore. But here's my opinion on it. And I know I'm like monopolizing the conversation, but I think the Mariners may have thrown their chances away to get any Asian players, let alone Japanese players. And it's not so much of the whole Nintendo sold everything to to John Stanton. It's the fact in 2021, former Mariners president Kevin Mather said that he was tired of paying for Hiwasashi Iwakuma's interpreter, which is partially the reason why I believe Ohtani did not choose Seattle, because maybe he has close ties with Iwakuma. And by the way, the Japanese, they do usually a pretty good job of hiding their stuff in the media. Like, when you were trying to get anything out of Ichiro, all you're going to get really out of him was whatever he says and what the interpreter says. But I really do think that Iwakuma was like, hey, Ohtani, I just came back from the Mariners and they didn't like paying for my interpreter. Maybe you should consider something. Maybe that's just overlooking it. But when you say something about tired of paying for a Japanese player's interpreter and it gets leaked out to the public, it's not exactly a good look on a PR perspective, which is why I've noticed that the Mariners have only signed one Japanese player legitimately, but he didn't even crack the opening day roster when he was in spring training. I think we saw a little bit of him. I forgot what his name was, but I've noticed that ever since 21, Mariners have not really signed like a hot shot Japanese free agent since. So that's why I think that's why they may not have a chance on this third base guy. When I saw the rumors, I was like, yeah, but Kevin Mather said something.
Yeah, and I can't comment too much on that player. I don't know him all that well. I think he had some strikeout problems. I could be wrong on that, though, so I don't know. But yeah, they haven't been nearly as in on that market as they used to be. Not saying it can't happen. Maybe it's just been happenstance, and they haven't gotten the guys. But yeah, it definitely seems like there's some correlation there for sure, because they really haven't had anybody come over from Japan or Korea or anything and been a contributor since Iwakuma, to be perfectly honest, unless I'm missing someone. Daeho Lee, a little bit in 2016, but or was that 2017?
You say Kikuchi, he was an all-star for the Mariners.
Oh yeah, you're right, Kikuchi. Yeah, so okay, maybe a little bit more than I'm remembering, but yeah, that definitely could be a factor in there. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think the payroll, they were 16th last year going into the season. I'd expect them to be somewhere between 13 and 16 in that range. Again, not the worst, obviously, but they won't be top 5. It would be great if they could, like you said, not have to be the Dodgers. It'd be great to see this team 7th or 8th or something like that in payroll. You kind of feel like that might be the difference between a World Series and not. But, it's again, Jerry's going to have to get a little creative, I think, this offseason. And I mean, I think Naylor's a slam dunk, not a slam dunk that it's necessarily going to happen, but a slam dunk in the sense that I don't know if there's been a player that I've seen the fans all on board for more than Naylor. I don't think anybody would. I mean, every signing, there's always somebody going, well, I don't know about that. There's always one. I don't think anybody would fight Josh Naylor. I think everyone would be like, yep, great, got him, perfect, needed it, let's go. Then it's going to have to get tricky. Do you think about Gino on a 1-year deal for third base? Do you focus on Polanco? Do you put him at second? Do you DH? In the trade market, do you make a big splash and say, hey, we're not going to get him long term, but do we go for 1 year of Tarek Skubal if he's available? Twins might be interested in trading Byron Buxton. Is that something you think about? Then trading Randy? Do you trade Castillo, free up some money, get involved in some other trades? We've mentioned JP. I think it's going to be tough to move on from JP. I just don't think there's anybody that's really going to be able to come in and perform outfield. You could get creative. You could trade Randy, end up with like a Stephen Kwan, something like that. Do they trust Ben Williamson at third base? That may be just the route they go. Do they trust Cole Young at second base? A lot of questions. I think the team is set up well. I do think that the future can be very bright. I think anytime you have Julio Rodriguez, Cal Raleigh, even Brian Wu, George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, you've got pieces in place to be a very competitive team. Can Jerry maneuver around the margins and make this team competitive, with this offseason? I think he can. He's done it before. Funny enough, the offseason where they were most inactive is the one where they get to the ALCS. So, who knows? But I'd certainly be very disappointed. Like, I want to see Naylor, and then I want to see, you got to have a couple other moves in there to get it going. Maybe it's a reliever. I don't know if it's be Diaz. I think that's going to be too expensive, but I do think bolstering the bullpen is a good idea.
I think at this point, the Mariners they got to bolster basically everything. I know people are debating like, well, maybe the bats, no, maybe the bullpen, but I'm even starting to think that maybe the starting rotation, because throughout this playoff run, all of our Mariners' so-called great starting rotation, as much as I love their rotation's fun to watch, all of them looked like they were fringe number 2 to number 3 kind of pitchers at best. Like, the only one that was like the best one, if you think about it, it was really Bryce Miller. He was the best starter throughout. And that was not even supposed to happen. He was supposed to be just on the bullpen. And the ones that were expected to be at their best, like George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, they were very, for the most part, disappointing. And they were expected to be at their best, especially with the T-Mobile Park advantage. That still didn't really matter. Like, even the Tigers were still dicing up on them. The Blue Jays clearly just embarrassed the starters like George Kirby. And it was Luis Castillo in the ALCS. So that was, so a lot of things to be done, but I was also going to talk about what the Mariners going to have to get. What are they going to have to do to get Tarek Skubal? Like, I think it's definitely going to include any of our prospects, like the Harry Fords, Laz Montez, and Cole Emerson, and maybe that doesn't even stop there. Then what? They're probably going to ask for any of our starters, like the Logan Gilberts, the George, maybe Brian Wu, because he has a little bit more years of club control. But I'm not the best measuring guy for a trade. I'm not the general manager, and yes, I criticize Justin Hollander and Jerry DiPoto all the time, but I know that deep down that if they gave me the job today, like, of course, I'll be sweating and all my sweat would probably flood the entire room. So I get it, but it's like it makes it so easy for us to criticize them because they're at that level where it's like, well, if they're at that level, they should be doing a much better job. But I mean, that's why we have people like Jerry in that position. Not that I like him or anything. And then you have people like Mel Kiper just going absolutely nuts. Remember when Bill Tobin was like, who the hell is Mel Kiper anyway?
So, yeah, I mean, Scoob will be a tough one, I think. I don't think it's going to be as expensive. I don't think he's going to get traded at the end of the day. I think they're just going to go and say, like, listen, if maybe we're out of it at the deadline, we'll do it. It's a tough one because you don't see players like that traded a whole lot. It's the best pitcher in baseball, but it's also someone on a 1-year deal. And this is why I don't think he's going to be traded. I think the Tigers would want Colt Emerson. I think their starting point would be, we want Colt Emerson, George Kirby or Bryce Miller, and then like maybe another infield prospect, maybe like Michael Arroyo or something like that. But the Mariners are going to balk at that. They're going to be like, no, we're not going to give that up for 1 year of a pitcher. So that's why I just think he's ultimately not going to get traded. I think the package at the end of the day would be something like Bryce Miller or George Kirby. I'd prefer it to be, I don't know which one. I guess Miller was worse last year, but who knows? It'd probably be one of them because it give you a pitcher under club control for a few years. They can slide in the rotation. And then I think like a Michael Arroyo, which is a pretty steep price for 1 year of a pitcher. But that's why I think it's going to ultimately not end up in a trade. Their best bet was probably to do it like last year for the Tigers sense, because you could have got an absolute haul for 2 years of them, but 1 year's tough, and pitchers get hurt. So teams are going to be skeptical. And Jerry's just, I don't think is going to give up what it would want. Maybe there is a team, maybe a Mets or someone that is desperate for pitching does give up a haul. I think Jerry would be willing to do the trade, but I think he's going to eventually reach a point where they go, no. And that's fair too, for 1 year. Like while I want Skubal, it'd be amazing. I don't care what we trade. I would celebrate it because it's best pitcher in baseball, but there does have to come a balking point too. So it'd be very interesting. I don't know. I do think you're right though, with like what the Tigers would probably start with, right? That's what they would say. This is what we want. You want our pitcher? Give us all that.
That's what you would expect. And maybe at the deadline, maybe he'll just be maybe a tad little bit cheaper, but we're not even at that point anyway. Yeah, well. And you never want to count out AJ Hinch either as the manager of the Tigers. Like
they'll be good. Yeah.
Yeah. And not only like people talk about like, oh yeah, it was Tarek Skubal. He carried the Tigers, but I don't think AJ Hinch also gets enough credit. And honestly, I was a little bit surprised that he wasn't even in consideration for manager of the year. I think he should have at least been nominated. I would have nominated him over Dan Wilson, but then when Dan Wilson also had success as a manager leading the team to the division for first time in 24 years, I think of course that they're going to put that into account, even though I think I was hesitant with the idea of nominating him because for someone that watched 79 Mariners games, I was like, I don't like that Dan Wilson did that, or I don't like that Dan Wilson did that. Don't like his lineups. I hated that he put Randy Arozarena as the leadoff hitter. I hated it. And I was finally proven correct, unfortunately. So there's that. And yeah, Tarek Skubal is really going to be a tough one to get. Like it really just is. And when we look at all the free agents, like, unfortunately, Mariners are probably, I don't think they're going to get, unfortunately, any of them, which
Naylor, maybe they'll get maybe somebody, like I could see Naylor coming back. I think that's reasonable.
I mean, Naylor is a no question because he's also T-Mobile Park proof. He was a 350 hitter at T-Mobile Park, and that's someone that I don't want to give up. And he wasn't necessarily a live and die by home runs like Suarez. I think I can understand why people are willing to give up Suarez more than Naylor, because he is very live and die by home runs, and his numbers were absolutely terrible. But another reason why I still want to keep Eugenio Suarez is it's not so much of his bat. It's not even so much of his fielding. It's his leadership. And that he does bring a great presence, the good vibes only message. Like it never gets old. Like just like this.
All right, guys, good vibes only. Don't forget it.
Stop it. Thank you.
And we kind of saw the effects of Suarez not being part of the team in 24 in the first half of 25, because it was like it felt like the Mariners were missing that bona fide leader on that team. Like 24, like when I was doing those 60 games, like now I'm actually proud of myself for even doing 60 games, or let alone 50, because watching that offense was practically just unwatchable. We saw Julio swinging everything. We saw JP just completely just look lost. Like it was painful and nice. And I kind of contribute to the fact that Suarez not being on the team did not help. So that's why I'm still holding on to hope that the Mariners can find some way to negotiate to keep him, because I know like Ben Williamson, he statistically technically had better numbers than Suarez when he was in Seattle, but Suarez has better batting average,
That's about
OBP
it.
around the same. But the thing is, like, Suarez and Williamson are different players, and Williamson, he can like plug in a role, someone more like a Brendan Ryan kind of role that I'm seeing as of now. But he's not going to be Eugenio Suarez. Like, he's not going to hit, like, I don't see him hitting like a 20, 30 home run thing. And he is more of like a contact hitter, someone like Cole Young. Now, if Williamson can get to the level where he can contribute, then fine. But I think best case scenario, Mariners give everyone like a 1 year, like maybe they sell it to them going, hey, just use this 1 year as a way to get the next contract, especially if you win the World Series. But of course, that's also a pipe dream. But that's kind of what the Seahawks did in their 2013 Super Bowl run. Before that, when they brought in Michael Bennett and Cliff Averill, and those kind of contracts they got, they were like the prove it kind of deals to get the big ones. And that's why they were successful. But I don't know. Like, it's still very unclear. Yeah.
Yeah. Gino's so tough because, like, he'll get on streaks where you're just like, man, this guy doesn't make it out. He's just dialed in. Then there's other times where it's just like, oh, I'm like, how is this guy's cooked? Like, there was times towards the end of the year, I'm like, Gino's just done. This is it. This is the end. And then he had some moments in the postseason. I don't know what his overall numbers ended up being for the postseason, but he had some good moments. It's a, with the ballpark not being super, conducive to, right-handed hitters, it's a tough one. But you also don't have, I like Ben Williamson. I think he can be the guy. Hopefully some of the power surge in, Tacoma at the end was big. I'd like to see the team cut back on the strikeouts, get some guys who can put the ball in play a little bit more. But it's not like Ben is, it's not Colt Emerson ready necessarily. You know what I mean? He's not that type of prospect either. Like, there's a chance he's not great. And Gino goes somewhere and is, even if he's like 735 OPS or something with average defense, it's like, okay, that might have been better. So that's a tough one for me. I don't think they end up bringing him back. I think they're going to go a different route, but it doesn't have to be Williamson or Gino either, right? There's other options too that they could look into as well. So it's going to be something in the trade market, I think, for the most part. My gut is Naylor. Then I think you see trades. It'd be interesting to see if they do something with the outfield. I think JP ends up sticking at short. I think Ben's going to get a shot at third, but I could see them making a trade somewhere. I don't think you can roll with both Cole Young and Ben Williamson opening day. I think someone has got to, I think one of them's got to probably be in the minors. I don't think you want to roll with both of them as your opening day infielders, but I think one of them probably will be. And, how ready is Colt Emerson? Maybe he is. Maybe it's 22 Julio. So, but we'll see. It'll be really interesting.
Yeah, like best case scenario that we can see is Colt Emerson. If he is to make an opening day roster, I think he has to do more than what Julio did in spring training. Same thing with Las Montez, another player that is in the farm system. But the thing is, he's also a heavy strikeout guy. So it's very questionable if he can actually play at that level immediately, which would be pretty tough to expect. So, like, Mariners, like, as much as they had an amazing run, like, there's just so many questions going into the offseason. And of course, we're not going to really get much answers, I think, for at least my prediction. Maybe in a couple weeks, some kind of news happens. But until then, it's like people are like, oh, yeah, Cal Raleigh did not get the MVP. That's too bad. Oh, no. But what are the Mariners going to do? Are we going to get Josh Naylor? But I don't know. And I really hope they do get Josh Naylor, because if they don't get Josh Naylor back, then that's a whole big hole to fill in first base. And I don't think Luke Raley is unfortunately going to fill that role. I mean, he's already proven that he is too much of a platoon hitter than an actual hitter, kind of like an actual everyday kind of player. But I did come across one of my friends. He did send me a question, and he really wanted me to answer it. And it was about, what do you think of the idea? And this was by my friend Greg. What do you think of the idea of trading for Brandon Donovan of the St. Louis Cardinals? Now let's see where he's at. He was an all-star this season. He is not a live and die by home run guy. His price is going up a little bit on salary because he just became that much better of a player. He's a second-year arbitration eligible. His earliest arb is 26. His free agency will be 2028. So theoretically, you would be getting at least a couple of years of club control out of Brandon Donovan. He can play second base, left field, and third baseman. So he does have some versatility. And last season, when he was in the fielding, he was 18 games on the outfield. He was mostly a second baseman. He never played third base. So he would be filling more of that second base to maybe an outfield role. And then maybe that would put Jorge Polanco, if re-signed, to a more designated hitter. But that's the other whole question is, what are they going to do with Jorge Polanco? Which if we had more time, which I know we're almost running out of time, we would talk about it. But the problem is Cal Raleigh's MVP thing and Aaron Judge kind of ate up like half of the show. But we still have a whole season to talk about all this stuff. But I think if they were to get Brandon Donovan, I don't know how much that's going to cost, but I don't think it will cost like a Cole Emerson type, but at least somewhere maybe creeping into the top 10. Maybe they'll ask for like a Gerangelo Saintia, or maybe they'll ask for like a Felnine Celestine or like a Johnny Farmello. I don't think that it's going to cost like Colt Emerson and Laz Montez and Harry Ford. I think it will go more into like the Felnine Celestine type heats, maybe Michael Arroyo, like you said. But I mean, what do you think of the idea of a Brandon Donovan? He is not, and the good thing about him, he's not exactly a strikeout guy.
No, quite the opposite. He's got one of the best at not striking out. So it is the type of player I'd love to see the team add. I'm with you. I don't really know the cost of how old's Don? 28. I'm not sure exactly what the cost would be there for him. And that's always going to come into play, but I think it'd be a perfect addition for this team. That's actually someone I would really try and target, put him at second base, hopefully get Josh Naylor back. I think that's if that alone is probably a pretty solid offseason right there. And maybe work out somewhere to get a reliever back in a trade. That's always possible as well. So yeah, I'm all for Brandon Donovan. That's the type of player, Brandon Donovan, Stephen Kwan, that I really want to see the team target this offseason. You can't eliminate strikeouts all in one offseason. You don't want to become Cleveland. Ironic, I'm talking about Kwan saying don't want to become Cleveland. You don't want to become Cleveland or Kansas City when your only skill is like not striking out. So Donovan fits that mold. He does a lot of things well. He still walks at a decent rate too. I think he would play fine in T-Mobile Park. 10 home runs last year, so he's not a guy that relies on the long ball. I think you mentioned that. So they really think a good fit for this ballpark. That is absolutely someone I'd be extremely, extremely interested in adding.
It is a great question by my friend Greg. It is an idea, but of course we're not the general managers, but he just wanted our opinions. And I would say, well, yeah, of course. But then you have to account to, then what are you going to do with Cole Young? And now you would think that Cole Young would probably be packaged in that trade if they did that, because maybe the Mariners just don't have time to invest in someone like Cole Young, who he did show potential. Yes. His defense pretty good. He showed some abilities to get on base, but it was clear that he's just one of those players where, every prospect's different. There's just some that just like Julio, he does it almost immediately. Yes, it took a month, but then there's also players that they just happen to take time. And I'm not saying it's like a skill issue or anything. It's just that everyone is different for a reason.
Well, and Cole Young was kind of, in a weird way, kind of hurt by the Mariners winning, because, in any other Mariners year, or in some of the years, like, you just would have let him play it out, right? Like, hey, he's just going to take the at-bats if you're out of contention, because who cares? But he dropped off, and then, and not anybody's fault, but like, he didn't get the time to make it right. Polanco went in there at second, which was the right move. You're trying to win ball games, and that was giving you, better odds to win. So we never really got to see Cole Young kind of dig himself out of those struggles a little bit. So maybe he would have responded with a great September. Who knows? Maybe he wouldn't have. Maybe he would have dipped lower. I'd be fine trading Cole Young for the right. If that's Brendan Donovan, I think I'd be fine with that trade. I'm not going to write Cole Young off by any means. I think he's still a good prospect and can definitely be an everyday second baseman. potentially. It's just tough because this is a team that we expect to. The goal next year is to make the World Series, right? I mean, you were 5 outs away or 8 outs away this year. It can't be anything less. I mean, obviously. So, do you trust Cole Young and Ben Williamson on the opening day roster? And I think I'm okay with one of them. I should say starting on the open day roster, not just being on it. But I don't know if I trust having both of them in the lineup unless you're doing something else crazy. Like you add Scooble, you went out there and you added Quan, you added Buxton, you Naylor's back, all that other stuff, then fine. I guess I can handle them at 8 and 9 in the lineup. But realistically, I'd like to see an upgrade there. And I think Donovan's a person that can do it if he's traded.
Yeah, we'll have to see. And other things to look at too is like we already mentioned Colt Emerson, but I think that's an underrated thing to look at is what it will look like with J.P. Crawford and Colt Emerson being in spring training together, and possibly is there going to be an opportunity for someone like a Colt Emerson to actually compete for that starting job? So J.P. Crawford also has a lot to think about himself. He's on the last year of his contract. He was unfortunately very disappointing in the playoffs. Like we saw some of those defensive plays where I was like, oh, come on, JP. You could have gotten that. You could have, I think even a little diving or a sliding could have saved some trouble. So, but I mean, we can ramble off all we want, but we're out of time. There's like about last 3 comments and I'll address those and then we'll get out of here. Mariners fan here, not offended by who won or lost the MVP vote. I'm not offended either. It's just the way it is. Mariners hot take. 2015 is the most disappointing Mariners team ever. At the end of the day, 0-1 and 25 made their playoffs and won the series when they got there. I see what you mean because they got Nelson Cruz, but at the same time, what I knew, Mariners let go of Michael Saunders. They let go of Chris Young. So although they got Nelson Cruz, it also came with a lot of losing other key pieces. So that's why I wasn't exactly surprised of 2015. Yeah, the difference in average and hits was just too big not to give it to Judge. It was just close. Yeah. Honestly, like 2010 to 2020 was all kind of blended there for me. Yeah, of course.
Maybe 2014 and 2016 kind of stick out because they were close, but the rest of them, yeah, like they all kind of just ran together for me, to be honest. Like I remember a few moments, but they're all one just black season combined together.
Yeah, of course. Well, that's going to do it for both of us. Usually we're like pretty much at our tops, but before we go, just want to say congratulations to Jay Trident Podcast for not only your haircut, but also trimming the beard.
It was time. I had to keep it during the postseason. I didn't want to be the person responsible if I trimmed it, but it needed it. I feel cleaner. I feel better. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I was also due to wear this shirt because I remember during the playoff run, the second I bought this shirt, I kept wearing it for like half a month, and I was wondering if it was going to stink, but it was pretty cool to wear the same exact shirt every day. And I remember I even still took 2 extra days to like just feel a little bit more Mariners until it was time to throw it in the washer, which I did. But everyone, thank you for being here. Thank you, Jay Trident Podcast. And for those who haven't subscribed, please subscribe and do the same thing for Jay Trident Podcast. Like our videos, subscribe, everything that I can think of. I know, repeat it. But thank you very much. And thank you for this huge amount of engagements. You guys did not stop. You just kept firing comments after comments. So I do appreciate it. It means it all. But everyone, have a good night. And painfully saying, go Mariners.